How's it going? My name's Tom. I married a Vietnamese woman in 2017, and the first time I went to Vietnam was 2019. We had a traditional Vietnamese countryside wedding in a province called Quang Tri, in the town of Quang Tri, which I'll tell a story about another time. Now we have a 2.5-year-old daughter, and she hasn't been yet. So as soon as some of this travel stuff from COVID and everything gets cleared up, I can't wait to go back. But I figured that I could start telling stories about Vietnam because I was there for a good amount of time in 2019, and even if nobody watches these, then I'll have a little library for my daughter to look at one day. So my first story is, we had already done the wedding in Quang Tri, and we had taken a bus we had flown down to Saigon, Ho Chi Minh City, on a plane, and the tickets there are really cheap. The airfare is really cheap. It's like $45 or $55 American. It's only about $10 more than a bus ticket. So we ended up taking a bus to this city called Nha Trang, which is a real touristy party city, but it's beautiful. Lots of big skyscrapers, hotels, shopping malls, and then there's, ancient Buddhist temples that are there. There's a big giant Buddha on the mountain in the middle of the city. There's a beautiful bay. You can scuba dive, snorkel, take boat tours out on all these islands that are in the bay. But we stayed in a hotel in Nha Trang for a few days, and then we had to take a bus back to Quang Tri because we were going to go back to be with her mom and her other family that's in Quang Tri for another few days. So I already am not excited about this because I have always had issues with not being able to go to the bathroom on long road trips. It stemmed from my father not wanting to stop on road trips, back in the day when I was a kid and we would go on road trips. So my wife is telling me, like, relax, I booked us a bus that has a bathroom in it. It's in the back. I'm like, all right, well, I know this is going to be like a 13-hour bus ride. And you wouldn't think it because you look up the mileage on your GPS and you're like, oh, this should be like a 6 or 7 hour ride. But if you've never been to Vietnam, the thing that you figure out is that there's no interstate system there. So all the driving and everything takes like double what you think it would take. So I love durian, which is called sao rin in Vietnamese. And you can't get fresh durian in the States. They just don't grow it, and it'll only get shipped here frozen because it won't hold well, like being shipped over here on a boat. So we had bought a fresh durian, which was dirt cheap. I think it was a few dollars. And the day before I thought my wife was going to split it with me, but she only ate like one little piece, so I ate the whole rest of it by myself, which it's a pungent, strong, potent fruit. Well, the next day my stomach was hurting, and I had just been trying not to eat and trying not to drink anything as much as I could in preparation for this bus ride, right? So we get to this bus station. There's nowhere to go to the bathroom, waiting for the bus. So I'm like, have to go pee over in the bushes. Now my stomach's starting to hurt. And I'm like, man, I don't know what I'm going to do. I don't have a choice. I have to get on this bus. There's no other option at this point. And my wife is a pistol, if you get what I'm saying. So there was really no arguing with her or saying like, hey, I'm just not going to get on this bus. It wasn't going to fly. Not to mention the fact I'm in the middle of Vietnam. I'm not fluent in Vietnamese. And even at the time, I knew a lot of words, but still not fluent. And she's born and raised there, so I don't really have a choice just to be like, I'll meet you there or something. So these buses, you can lay down in the seat, especially if you're short like me. I'm only 5'7". I still had to bend my knees a little bit, but you can lay down in the seat. So I lay down in the seat. Well, we start going, and I felt like I had to go number 2, felt like I had to go number 1. I put my face down in my hands, and I couldn't help it. I cried a little bit. I'm looking out at this beautiful countryside, these mountains and rice fields, and some old lady had seen me and told my wife, and she's looking, asking if I'm okay. So then here's where the whole point of the story kicks in. Well, the focal point of the story was this guy. He's getting my attention, and he's going, hey, hey. And he goes like that. So I don't think anything of it. So we get to, it's been a few hours now, and I do have to pee. So we get to this bus stop. It's in the middle of nowhere. It's a big building. And to the left of the building, there's a big cinder block wall. And when you walked inside of it, it was like a square shape. There's a bunch of urinals. But there's no partitions or anything, and it's like rock on the ground, gravel. I didn't care, though. I got to pee. And everybody was going in there to pee. So when I walk in there, I walk up to the urinal, and I unzip, do what I got to do. I look, and there's that guy, and he's standing there staring at me with this big grin on his face. And he's getting closer, and I just look over, and I know he probably doesn't speak English, but I, at the time, couldn't speak that much Vietnamese to ask him what was up. And so I said, hey, man, I'm trying to piss. And he said, like that, and just started getting closer. And he's getting closer. I go, hey, man, I'm trying to piss. And he's still walking towards me, smiling. So I zip up, and I said, hey, man, get the out of here, man. I'm trying to piss. And I'm mad. I'm freaked out. I'm kind of mad because he was looking down, And so I leave out of there real quick, and I go into that main building. My wife is sitting there with a few old dudes that had it was like 3 guys that owned and operated this bus. It wasn't like a bus line. So I'm telling her, they don't know what I'm saying because they don't speak English, but I'm telling my wife what I just said about the incident by the urinals. So these guys can tell that I'm angry, though, and by my mannerisms, by the way I'm talking. So she says, who? Well, right then, it was perfect time, and I look over, and the front door of that building, where everybody was sitting down getting soup and whatnot, here comes this guy. So I said, him! And she starts telling them in Vietnamese what I had been saying, and they're laughing and everything. Well, he comes and sits down next to me while I'm trying to eat this soup, and I had left my portable phone charger on the table next to ours, and he's grabbing it and giving it back to me. Well, he's like staring at me, like just smiling at me, like, like creepy. I'm eating, and he reaches down and tries to grab my crotch. So I popped up. I'm like, yo, like, tell this dude I'm not playing around, man. So they're telling him, and the 2 old guys are laughing, and my wife is laughing. She's like, oh, no, he's just messing with you. Da 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 da. So we get back on the bus, and the part about I said there was a bathroom on the bus. There was, but these guys didn't have all the seats filled. So people will pay them to take their, if they want to ship something, they'll pay them to take it to other parts of the country. So people were laying in the aisle, and it's like bunk beds. It's like 3 rows of bunk beds all the way down from the front of the back of this bus. Well, the right side was completely filled with cargo. People were sleeping in the aisle. And you weren't even on the aisle because they had cargo stacked where the floor was. So I did try to go back there one time to pee, and I'm climbing over people saying sorry, which in Vietnamese is xin loi. I'm going, xin loi, xin loi. They're sleeping and stuff. I'm stepping on people, not on purpose. It was real difficult to pee. There's water all over the floor. The bus is moving all around. So I get back to my lay down seat. Somebody's in it, completely covered from head to toe in my blanket. Well, my wife didn't have a seat for the longest. She was sitting on a box up by the dashboard of this bus. Some people had gotten off at certain stops, so she had moved to the seat that old woman from the beginning had been sitting in. So I already know it's this dude. So I look at her and I said, hey, tell this dude to get out of my seat. Like, I'm not in the mood. I don't feel good. I'm tired. So she's saying whatever she's saying in Vietnamese. So he goes like this here and looking all around, and he pulls it down to his chin, and he's looking at me saying something. She says, he said he wants you to lay down with him. I said, no, I don't want to lay down with him. Just tell him to get out of my seat, right? So he sits up, and he's saying something to my wife. He says he wants you, like he wants to have fun with you. I looked and I said, well, you tell him he's got to pay. I'm not free. And when she relayed that to him in Vietnamese, this guy pulls out his wallet and goes, oh, yeah. I'm like, man. So he's, get down from there. Excuse me. I'm watching my 2.5-year-old. She's over there dancing. Anyways, he gets out of my seat and everything. So then some time goes by, and now I feel like I gotta poop. They had pulled the bus over, and what they do is like the men go to the left, women go to the right type of deal. So I can't, there's nowhere to poop. Well, this guy, one of the bus guys, he points into we're in the middle of nowhere, not a town or anything. We're in the middle of the jungle on this like dirt road. And this guy points at the forest and goes, D, which is go. And I looked down, I had already peed, but I looked down in the woods and I said, no, D. And when I went to pee, when we first had gotten out right at that spot, it's pitch dark. All I had was my phone for light. So I go up against this guardrail and I can't see anything really. And I hear this noise after I had started going. And I look over, and that guy that's been messing with me the whole time is straddling the guardrail like this. And he goes, and he got me. And they had been telling me like he wants to see, coup is the word for a man's appendage in Vietnamese. He wants to see an American coup and all this other stuff. And it was just like crazy. I'm like, what is going on right now? And so when I had told the guy, no, D, I'm not going in the woods, we got back on the bus and we stopped at another bus stop. Well, my wife's sitting down eating soup, like pho. She got pho ba, beef pho, and she's eating. And I'm telling her, like, I'm not going to eat anything or drink anything until we get back to Quang Tri. So I'm like, I need to try to go number 2. So she goes, well, here, not every bathroom that you go to, especially ones on the road like that, they're not all going to have toilet paper or not even a bidet to squirt yourself with. So she gives me this stack of little squares, and it looked to me like it was cut up computer paper, like printer paper, into these little squares. She gave me a little stack, and she goes, here, I got you some napkins to take to the bathroom. I didn't say anything because it was nice of her to give them to me, but I'm thinking, napkins? So I just put them in my pocket. I walked down this long hallway into this thing. It's got a ceiling over it, but like no walls. And it's got like a big stone center with a big stone area like that has water in it. And it's so you can get a bucket of water and go flush the toilets. Well, this particular bus station had squatty toilets, and it was behind like a wooden door that kind of was held on with string. Like you would loop the string around a nail that they had pounded halfway into the wall. So I get in there, and what I would always do, now not every bathroom in Vietnam is like this, by the way. This was just a bus station in the middle of nowhere. A lot of the bathrooms over there were completely, for American standards, completely normal and nice and clean. But sometimes you'll run into having to use a bathroom like this. So what I would do all the time when I was there, when I had to go into a squatty toilet, I would make sure my socks never, or if I was wearing sandals, which I did a lot over there, but at this particular instance, I was wearing shoes and socks. So I just took my socks out of my shoes, made sure my shoes never touched the floor, and I would like stand on one foot, and I just take my shorts off and shove them under my arm and hold them like that, and I squat down. It didn't smell real nice in there, so I lit a cigarette just to try to mask the smell. Well, the door starts rattling, and I'm like, hey, I'm in here. And it keeps rattling, and I think it's this guy. I'm like, I know it's this guy. He's going to get me. I'm in a vulnerable spot right now, right? The door busts open. It's this fairly attractive looking middle-aged Vietnamese woman. And I'm like trying to cover up. I'm like, you know, and she just goes and looks down at me and shuts the door and walks out. Now, by the way, I was also a considerable amount thinner at the time. You know, life happens. Sometimes you gain a little bit of weight. I'm hopefully going to lose it before we go back. So, to wrap it up, we're about an hour outside of Quang Tri, and my wife said it was sitting up by the dashboard, the dude's driving. Well, at this point, it's the guy that had been messing with me driving. I didn't know he was one of the owners of the bus. So my wife says, hey, he's saying he wants you to come up here and sit with him and smoke and drink. And I'm like, all right, well, you know, at this point, screw it. We've been on this bus with the stops and everything. It's been like 14 hours or so. We only got an hour left. Screw it. All right. So I go up there, and it's a huge one of those big dashboards on those tour buses or coach buses. So I sit up there, and he's driving the bus, and he's looking down at me, and he's smiling. He tosses me a Tiger beer, and we're smoking and drinking beer, and we're not saying anything to each other. He's driving, but every couple of seconds or so, he just glanced down at me and smile. And we had finally gotten to Quang Tri, and my wife's brother was there waiting for us to take us back to the house, because their house is kind of out in the countryside. We had gotten off the bus, and the two old guys and the guy that had been messing with me were standing there, and the guy was talking to me through my wife as a translator, and he says, I'll come visit you in America. And I said, yeah, maybe in like 30 years from now. And the other guy said, oh, shit, he'll be dead in 30 years. Anyways, I guess that last part was something you had to be there for. But come to find out, all three of the guys, including the guy that had been messing with me the whole time, were family friends of my wife. So he definitely was just screwing with me the whole time. But that is one of my great experiences with Vietnamese buses. So I have a ton more stories about Vietnam and my experiences and travels there. Pretty much ever since I was already involved with it, you know, when I got married to my wife, obviously, but ever since I went there, I just love Vietnam and everything about it. Love the people. Can't wait to go back. This is my ao dai that I wore during the wedding ceremony in Quang Tri. It was custom made. The guy looked at my wife when we were in Quang Tri, when she said that they had to make one for me. And even though I was thinner than I am now, he looked at her and said in Vietnamese, well, he's fat. Because he looked at me, he said, oh, trời ơi, wow. He said, oh my God, he's so fat. And I was thinner than I am now, but they're just not used to American sizes, I guess. So this is custom made ao dai. And I do have a fancy decorative traditional Vietnamese hat that I got in Way City that has, like, you know, decorations stitched into it. This is just one that I have bought at the Asian market, the Vietnamese market near where I live, just for fun. I bought my daughter one too. It's a little baby one. So anyways, that's it for this story. And I'll be uploading more stories regardless if this gets views or not. Like I said, so that there'll just be a whole library of my stories that'll be on here, so my kids and grandkids can watch it. And yeah, I just love Vietnam, and I'd like to hear other people's Vietnam stories too. So yeah, that's it for this one. Bye.